Let me flip straight to the south side and ask the views of the central bank governor of Uganda, Mr. Emmanuel Tumusiime-Mutebile, what he thinks and what they are doing together with the private sector to enhance cross-border banking. Mr. Governor.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Cross-border banks bring important benefits to local economies of African countries, especially expertise and, of course, capital. And they are also able to introduce into the domestic banking system innovative products and services that have been successfully pioneered elsewhere in the world and are new to our economies. In many African countries, including mine, cross-border banks are indispensable for the banking system. Hence, I strongly support cross-border banks getting licenses freely. Indeed, I support a system whereby there are no where there is freedom of entry of all banks, including cross-border banks. The full benefits of cross-border banking will not be realized unless the capital account is fully liberalized. In both the home and host country of the cross-border bank, this is really necessary. For example, it is indispensable that the home regulator does not impose capital account restrictions on the operations of the cross-border banks. However, although the capital account should be liberalized, it is necessary still to impose prudential requirements on banks to curtail risks which might arise from cross-border operations, and prudential requirements include restrictions on exposures to foreign currency mismatches. I do not believe that to reduce barriers to entry, it is useful to offer a wide range of different banking licenses with varying capital requirements on the different categories of banks. This is likely to encourage regulatory arbitrage, where applicants for bank licenses look at packaging their operations in such a way as to benefit from the regulatory regime. As African banking markets become integrated with the global and regional banking systems, the harmonization of regulatory and supervisory policies will become increasingly important. The starting point for the harmonization should be the Basel capital accounts and the Basel core principles for effective banking supervision. Implementing minimum international regulatory standards is essential both to promote public confidence and to avoid regulatory arbitrage, as I have said above. In some respects, it is actually warranted for African bank regulators to impose more stringent regulations than the international agreed minimum standards, because banks on the continent face greater risks than banks in the industrialized countries. For example, central banks of the 5 East African community have agreed to implement the Basel III Capital Accords with an additional buffer of 4 percentage points of risk-weighted assets as a preventive measure. The effective supervision of cross-border banks can also be implemented on a consolidated basis, which requires full cooperation of all supervisors in the territories in which the cross-border banks operate. How a cross-border bank can be resolved in an orderly and equitable manner in the event that it suffers bank failure is one of the most challenging issues facing bank supervisors. The Financial Stability Board has formulated a set of 12 key attributes for effective resolution of for effective resolution of the regimes for financial institutions. I will not go into details about that, but that ends my brief.
Thank you very much, Mr. Governor. I think the governor has raised very pertinent issues, both on the bright side and also some caution, saying that, yes, cross-border banks should be encouraged. They bring innovation. There are benefits. They bring expertise, skills across the border. He thinks that capital should be allowed to flow, should be no restriction, and also they should be given licenses. However, he cautions that there should be stringent regulation. I mean, we have a bank in Uganda, so we know what he's talking about, and we are always dealing with that. But on the flip side, he was also the governor that gave us a license within a month. So I think he speaks and walks the talk.
Doing business in Africa, you can't afford to be without Africa Investor.